This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, on Mondays I normally like to do kind of a lick lesson. Today is Friday, but this article popped up and I hadn't done an actual physical lick lesson for you to try this Monday, and I thought this could be an opportunity to talk about something interesting. So an article in the Scientific American, and it's talk about brain scans of jazz musicians reveal how to reach a creative flow state. An article by John Kunis and David S. Rosen. A new study from Drexel University's Creativity Research Lab posing a basic question about the nature of creative flow. Does it involve intense concentration and hyper-focus of attention, or does it involve release of attention and letting go? So our study examined flow in the context of jazz improvisation. Jazz has been used in several previous studies of creative production because it requires the generation of a continuous, spontaneous stream of ideas that can be recorded in real time and rated after the fact for creative and other characteristics. We recruited 32 jazz guitarists for the study, so 32 guys who still live with their mums, right, for the study. Some were relative novices, while others were highly experienced as measured by the number of performances or gigs that each had been given. We directed them to improvise solos on 6 series of pre-specified chords while listening to recorded jazz rhythm section accompaniments. They also rated the intensity of the flow state they experienced during each performance, and then expert judges listened to the recordings of these improvisations. And they also recorded their brain activity using EEG and used sophisticated algorithms to map the sources of the neural signals in the musician's brain. Notably, the most experienced musicians reported on average greater intensity and frequency of flow states. I was going to make a joke about menstrual cycle there. Substantial experience with a task may therefore be a precondition for experiencing flow. This finding makes sense because it is difficult to imagine feeling effortless attention while performing an unfamiliar task. High flow performances were associated with reduced activity in the brain's frontal lobes, which are associated with executive function and cognitive control. This supports the idea that flow is a state of low cognitive control rather than hyperfocus. When people ask me what I'm thinking when I'm improvising, when I'm playing well, I'm tending to say I'm not really thinking. We compared the least experienced with the most experienced ones, and the most experienced participants showed activity in a network of brain areas associated with hearing and vision during a flow state, sensory regions that were not activated in the low experienced musicians. Decades of practice and performance apparently led to the development of a specialized brain network for jazz guitar improvisation. Okay, and then they kind of settle the whole thing with this. So it seems that creative flow can occur when two conditions are met. First, one has to gain expertise by practicing the task enough to develop or bake in a specialized brain network for performing that task. Second, one must release conscious control so the specialized network can take over and produce ideas automatically on autopilot without the performer overthinking what they are doing or becoming overly self-conscious. Now, here's the key to that as well. This idea of spontaneous ideas and producing ideas, I think it matters what you bake into your network, essentially. So, of course, been told about like playing licks slowly and learning things slowly. To me, that is the idea of baking in something in general, right? So, when I'm teaching you or trying to teach you or showing you licks that I'm working on, what that is kind of helping me to bake that in, helping to transfer that idea to you if you find it interesting. But I guess over the process of years of doing this sort of thing, we are baking in lots of different ideas, right? And then so our flow state is about then finding ways and, effortless ways to involve these things that are part of our brain network in our improvisation. It all sounds a bit complicated, but I guess it makes quite a lot of sense. So we practice individual ideas, we practice visualizations, we practice all of this stuff with the idea in mind that as we reach certain levels where the various things that we are practicing are baked in, we can stop thinking about them and they start to appear in our playing. Anyway, I think that's kind of the science of it, and it makes sense to me. This lick that I'm working on at the moment goes like this. So it's kind of a pretty flowy idea in general, like in terms of I can just loop it round. We're in C sharp is what I'm thinking of this at. So I'm baking in the idea within a key initially, putting it in context. This is on the kind of upbeat before we start. So this is on beat 1. So our G sharp here on the 6th fret is going to be our final note as well as kind of how we start. And then 6, 9, 8, and back down like this. So a big jump down to the 9th fret here, and back up then to the 6th fret. And then down to the E. Technique wise, I'm starting with an upstroke, up, and going in between. And then going to that Tom Quayle kind of thing that I did a couple of weeks back. 6, 7, 9. 6, 7, 9, 7. Like that. So 7, 9, 7, 6. And there's definitely this idea about this baking in process where learning to run before you can walk doesn't make too much sense. So we need to kind of really just to start it to make it feel comfortable. You could try and count along with it as well. That can really help to kind of put your brain and your thinking in a different kind of mode. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we can also move it into new context, so we're mapping this same kind of little snippet of stuff. So what is this in our brain at the moment? I guess it's kind of like the physical feeling of the lick is what we're kind of baking in, as well as the way that we're anchoring this to whatever key we're seeing it in. So I'm seeing it as starting on this kind of fifth of E major. Sorry, not the fifth of E major. Kind of on the third of E major or the fifth of C sharp minor. And also, you know, having ideas that are kind of flexible. So if I see something in E major, it's also available in the relative minor, right? Then as I'm doing this kind of baking in method still, I'm going to be starting to think about making it a bit more flexible, and like you should with most licks, kind of fitting it in other keys, right? So in F major, and kind of thinking, okay, we're on the third of F major. If we're in D, we're on the third of D. And then if it was in D minor or F major. If we play it in F major, it's a kind of like a minor idea. Could we get it to work in kind of a G minor idea? So if I'm viewing it against the D minor, it's kind of the fifth, so I'm kind of viewing it there or there. Okay, anyway, so that's kind of like the part of the baking in process, and then find a backing track where you can start to try and work it in. And I guess this is starting to then get away from the baking in process towards getting it something that could possibly appear in your playing during a flow state, or you know, something that you could get to work in context. So you're then going to be thinking, right, where am I starting on the beat? 1, 2, 3, 4. What key am I playing in? 2, 3, 4. And yeah, starting to try and join it up with other bits of your kind of unconscious improvisation. This is a thing I definitely do all the time, where you're kind of switching between playing that lick that you're practicing and other stuff. 3, 4. And I think if you've been playing for a little while and you've been watching this stuff for a little while, you'll probably be somewhat familiar with this idea. Like maybe that feeling that you get when you're playing over backing tracks or something like that, and you're just enjoying playing it. I think that is close to what this kind of flow state is, right? Where you're not thinking about too much. And I think quite a lot of people can get into this kind of vibe with like the pentatonic stuff, right? So I'm guessing it's not something that's out of most people's grasp, right? It's just a case of kind of thinking about like, what is it that I'm practicing? What am I baking in? And this is the same with kind of scales as well, like that sort of stuff. Time taken to learn lots of little bits and pieces, and then try and put them together really in context. Figure out what key you're actually playing in. Find a backing track that is in that key. I've got hundreds of them up on my Patreon, which hopefully are useful and inspiring in some way. My Patreon is £2 a month to join if you're interested. And you get everything that's in the higher tiers as well. I just wanted to make it as cheap as possible. Patreon encourages you to put in like higher tiers and add more stuff. But I thought, well, let's do the opposite of that so that anyone, if they want to, can afford to jump in and get involved. That's where you find my tabs for these lick lessons as well, and the backing tracks. But I thought it's a really interesting article, and it kind of struck a chord with me because it's like, yeah, I guess I spend a lot of time baking these ideas in, but I also spend a lot of time every single day trying to get into this state of flow, right? In this state where it's just, right, I've got some time, let's play a bit of guitar, see what happens, and try and get something creative. And, you know, I can for sure say that most of the time during that, I'm not really thinking on a like note level. It is more kind of like trying to just stay in the moment, trying to stay in time, focus on that sort of stuff, and then also get in these newer ideas that maybe take a bit of time to start feeling comfortable under our fingers. But we can help that process along by kind of forcing some of that, right? I hope that's vaguely interesting. It was an interesting topic to me, the American Scientific or whatever it's called. Just this idea of improvisation, which I'm very interested in. I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers.